Hello, everyone. My name is Janine Donnelly for IBM Systems Magazine. Today's webinar, Application Modernization, is sponsored by Lanza. Our featured speakers today are David Brault and Tom Cremont. So without further ado, Dave, I'll turn the presentation over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Janine, and welcome everybody to today's presentation on application modernization. We're going to talk about a wide range of different application modernization options. Our goal today is to help you discover a fast, easy, and cost-effective strategy to meet your modernization needs without any open source, without any pace, without any limitations for that matter. So as we take a look at some of the most common modernization strategies out there, what you'll see is that the ROI scales greatly as you move from quick tactical wins to more strategic options. And going from right to left, the first option is instant GUI. So screen scraping is obviously a real quick win, but the ROI is pretty low because you're not adding a lot of value other than just having a nicer presentation. Next, we can now enhance those refaced screens with better navigation, GUI controls, integration with Word, Excel, etc. Now the ROI will rise as you continue to empower users with more functionality and less clutter. Going mobile is up next, and not just because it's cool. There's no money gained by doing cool things. Going mobile provides tremendous ROI as you start to utilize device features to make data collection more accurate, to make service calls faster, to making your routing more efficient, etc., and just really takes ROI to the next level. Up next is third-party integration, and I'm not talking about simple things like generating a PDF or launching Google Maps. I'm talking about true application-to-application integration where systems are now communicating and they're sharing processes and information. And last, we have new application development because there will be situations where refacing is just not enough. All right, so now that we've identified all the different modernization options, let's see where Lanza can help. So my guess is that when most people hear the name Lanza, they automatically think of Visual Lanza, which is a leading low-code development platform for quickly building IBM web and mobile applications that can integrate with just about everything. Well, Lanza also has a product called Axes, which is a refacing tool. And I don't really like to call it a refacing tool because it's much more than just a screen scraper. You can enhance the generated UI, you can go mobile with it and interact with device features, you can integrate with third-party solutions. Now, when you combine Axes with Visual Lanza and bring those together, that's when the magic happens, and that's where RAMP comes into play. So RAMP closes the loop between Axes and Visual Lanza and provides companies with the most elegant way to blend the best of refacing with brand new development. So let's take a closer look, a deeper dive, if you will, into each one of these modernizations, starting with Instant GUI. So Axes enables you to, again, instantly transform your 5250 screens into modern web interfaces instantly without having to change a single line of code. All you do is you install it and go, nothing more. Also, Axes doesn't need access to your source code, so it literally just uses the 5250 data stream. What does that mean? So if you bought a package, say, 19 years ago and it didn't come with source code, you can still modernize it with Axes. It also has a dynamic architecture, meaning that as your applications change, all these changes are reflected immediately without any action on your part as a developer, so eliminating any kind of double maintenance. And last, there's nothing to install on the client device. You could literally download Axes immediately after this webinar, install it, and have your users securely accessing all of your IBM applications with a graphical interface before you head home for dinner tonight. There's no Windows servers to set up. There are no handlers to deal with. There's no pace. It's just pure IBM. All right, next up, enhancing the user interface. So Axes includes a global rules engine, which allows you to quickly update and enrich the user experience for all of your applications by just changing default recognition rules. In addition, you can enhance, you can alter, you can hide content if you want on a screen-by-screen basis using some of the UI controls that you see listed here below. Now, not all refacing tools are the same. Some tools require HTML and CSS skills to make modifications, Axis is not one of those, so no HTML, no CSS required with Axis. Axis also enables you to manage spool files and your output queues for right from the browser. So you can now view, you can print, you can download, you can delete any report from your computer or tablet device, and if you want to save those as PDFs or translate them into Excel documents or Word documents, you can do that as well. Or if you're tired of writing reports in RPG and creating these spool files, you can take advantage of Axis' browser-based query tool and create brand new reports that can run against your DB2, it can run against any other ODBC or JDBC compliant data source, and then you can output that data to a variety of different file formats. All right, so now we're at mobile, and this is the first category where there's an overlap between Axis and Visual Lancer. So a natural question is when do I want to use which product? Well, you'd want to use Axis when you need to quickly put your existing IBM I applications into the hands of your mobile users and to make that available to them at any time from any place. You would use Visual Lancer when your 5250 applications do not lend themselves well to mobile. So instead, when you need to quickly build a brand new purpose-built application with Visual Lancer, it'll be able to run natively on your IBM I, and it's going to have real-time access to DB2, all of your APIs, data queues, data areas, all the other native constructs of the IBM I operating system. Now, regardless which option you decide to go with, your new mobile application will have access to all the native device features. That's going to make your users more productive and more accurate for that matter. Things like GPS location services, barcode scanning, capturing photos and videos, recording audio snippets, just to name a few. All right, moving on to integration. You can enable your existing 5250 applications to better coexist with other systems. So with Axis, we provide you with a set of host integration services that will open up your existing applications to other environments. So for example, let's say you're a Salesforce.com customer and your users need to see ERP data from within the actual cloud-based Salesforce application because they're just tired of always alt-tabbing back and forth between the browser and client access. So with host integration services, if you look on the left there, you can embed an Axis panel into the Salesforce application, and then Salesforce can tell Axis what to do. Like for example, it could take the customer ID and the order number from the Salesforce record from that data, and then navigate through the ERP and get down to that specific order detail screen, and then display that order detail screen, obviously refaced with Axis so it looks nice, without the user having to navigate any of those screens themselves. Now I use Salesforce just as an example, but it can literally be any other kind of web technology. It could be a SharePoint application, WordPress, Magento, really whatever you want. And I believe Tom, if I'm not mistaken, is going to demo this today. Right, Tom?
You got it.
All right, I got it. So the second example, and honestly this is where I lose a couple people, is similar to the previous example, but doesn't use Axis to display a screen, but rather it'll navigate a 5250 application in batch to say maybe grab a piece of information off a screen or complete a transaction. So if you're wondering why would I ever want to do this, well imagine you have an application that calculates a user-specific price, but that code is not callable on API. It's buried somewhere in a 10,000-line RPG program. With Axis Host Integration Services, a third-party application could literally navigate all those screens and get to that particular part of the application where the price is displayed, capture that price field off that green screen, and then return that value to the calling application. So there's no screens involved. It's purely done in batch. Now, an entirely different integration option is to use Visual Lancer and create RESTful services. Why would you want to do that? Well, there's a few reasons again. First, RESTful APIs have become one of today's most widely used integration methods. And second, Visual Lancer makes it really easy to create these RESTful services and then run them on your IBM I. And third, since Visual Lancer integrates with Axis Host Integration Services, your RESTful services can now access information that maybe isn't normally readily available to other applications, like sort of what we talked about with that pricing example just moments before. All right, so the last modernization topic we'll discuss is new development, because sometimes updates to an application go beyond the reach of modernization. So this is where Visual Lanza excels. Since it's a low-code development platform, you're able to quickly build responsive web and mobile applications much faster than you can use with traditional development tools. Plus, when you consider that most of us have cloud servers, we have Windows servers or Linux servers in addition to our IBM I, Visual Lanza's cross-platform capability means you can now use Lanza to develop on all of your different applications and servers within your organization, not just on IBM I. Now, as I mentioned before, with RAMP, you can now repurpose your existing 5250 applications inside of Visual Lanza's very feature-rich application framework without writing any code, which really separates it from all the other modernization tools that are out there, because it provides a natural transition into new application development, where you can slowly replace specific refaced 5250 programs with new ones, and then have refaced and new programs living right next to each other inside the same application. Now, a common question we get is if I need to rewrite one of my RPG programs using Visual Lanza, how long is it going to take? Now, I can't answer with time, but I can report that our customers tell us there's about a 70 to 80% reduction in the number of lines of code. So let's say you need to rewrite a 1,000-line RPG application, you're looking at maybe a couple hundred lines of code with Lanza. So not only is the new application smaller, but it's also cross-platform because it's in Lanza, and it's automatically future-proofed. All right, we're getting close to the exciting part of the presentation, that being Tom's demo. He's chomping at the bit over here. Obviously, Tom's not going to have enough time. We only have an hour today, and I've already used up 10 minutes of Tom's time. We don't have enough time to demonstrate everything that I've talked about thus far. But what he's going to try and do is give you a good cross-section, a good mixture of everything that we've talked about across the board, from refacing to mobile to brand new development. So without further ado, I'm going to pass control.
Okay. Thank you, Dave, and welcome, everyone. So like Dave said, today I'm going to wander you through some of the different modernization strategies which Dave has just talked about. We'll start by looking at some completed examples and dive into the tools along the way so you can see just how easy and productive they are to use. Now, according to a pre-webinar survey we conducted, 87% of you on the webinar today have users who sign into a system that looks something like this. So this is where I would like to start by spending 2 to 3 minutes here so you can understand what our existing application looks like. Now, I don't have access to everyone's systems on the phone today, but hopefully this reflects some of the characteristics of the screens your users currently interact with. And I will use this for the basis of the rest of the demo as we wander through the different modernization options. Okay, without further ado, I'll start by logging in as myself. And here we have the IBM I main menu. From here, I can run a command to get me into the application menu, where I can work with customers, products, and orders, among a couple other things. Let me wander through the menus here to work with customers, where we have a fairly typical subfile screen with options here at the top and records in the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and select my favorite customer, Lanza Mart, and take option 1 to view their information. Again, pretty standard functionality. I can prompt for certain fields like discount code, hit F4, and we see the prompt window appears, hit F12 to back out. Now, the rest of the information is scattered about a bit across the different screens, so let me go ahead and navigate to those. Take option 2 to view their billing and shipping address. And one more screen here, option 8 to view their order history. So there are 3 screens there to focus on. Details, address, and orders, and let's go ahead and back out of here. As I mentioned, we can work with products as well. Take option 2 and option 1. We have another subfile screen. I'll pick one of these products, and here we have the product details screen. So that's really all I wanted to show you here. And again, I'm doing this so you can see what the existing green screen application looks like. And let me just take one step back and go back to this customer details screen, because I will bring this back up in a few minutes. Okay, so what can we do with these screens? What options do we have? Well, let's first focus on our Axes product, and I will first show you what you get out of the box, then what you can do by customizing your screens, and finally, how the Axes Screen Designer works. So if you were to download and install Axes right now, and by the way, there is a free trial, the first key benefit is that your screens can be accessed immediately in any browser, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, IE, Safari, without making a single change to your programs. Again, without making a single change to your programs, you can accomplish what I'm about to show you. So let's check that out. I'll open up my browser. I'm going to use Chrome for this. Go to one of my bookmarks and launch the Axes project with no customizations. So here we have the Axes sign-on, and I'll log in with the same user ID and password that I've done so on the green screen. I'll make sure I get my password right. And here we have the same IBM I main menu. And again, this is the out-of-the-box version. I've done nothing to these screens. And as you can see, Axes makes things a bit more web-friendly. Things like menu options are now hyperlinks. Function keys down at the bottom are now push buttons, right, among a couple other things. And it does this, like Dave mentioned, by recognizing patterns on screens. And you can create your own patterns so you don't have to go into each screen and make individual changes. Now, one key thing is we don't take away functionality, so the veteran users of the system can still continue to use things like function keys and how they're comfortable to use the system, so we're not taking things away. So let's wander through those same screens again. On the command, I'll use the hyperlinks to get me through the menus, and here we have that same subfile. All right, I can use the subfile scroller buttons here to page up and down. I can also select a customer. Let me go ahead and work with the same ones. We're doing an apples-to-apples comparison. And when I click within the subfile column, you see that these subfile options are available in a pop-up menu, and I can choose their information screen. And here we see that same screen that I've showed you before. So things are stylized a little bit differently, and some of the functionalities that we provide is if I hit F4 in this window now, on the discount code, we see a proper pop-up window, which I can move around, and it's kind of neat because you can still see the screen that sits behind it. We go ahead and hit the cancel button at the bottom. To go back to the subfile, and I'll take option 2. Here we have the same billing and shipping address screen, and a couple other things we do. We can recognize yes, no fields or flags and render them as checkboxes or radio buttons or things like that. So just to kind of tie it all together, let me go back and select product maintenance, work with products, and I'll choose this first product. Here's that same screen. So again, all the underlying functionality remains the same without making any changes to your programs. Right? This is what you get. And at the end of the day, what you get out of the box is typically good for the large majority of your system. Right? Where we start talking about when am I going to customize a screen is when you can start thinking about those high touch point screens, those screens in those application areas where your users are frequently navigating to. So let's go ahead and spend a few minutes on our screens and customize them, and actually let's actually look and see what a customized screen looks like. So let me go ahead and log in as myself again over here. And again, this is a project where I've spent about 5 to 10 minutes on each screen. And let me log in and use the right password. And here we have that same IBM I main menu. Now I've added some links to navigate me around the system, which I have up here at the top. And I've also added some links to some other non-IBM I applications like Salesforce and SharePoint. So we're again bringing things that the users are using frequently all front into a single spot. So let's go ahead and take a look at those same screens. I can press this LTC menu button to take me in, and it's going to start to auto-navigate me around. We'll get to that same subfile. Let's work with Lansomart here again. And here we have that same customer details screen. And as you can see, things are starting to look radically different. We've grouped like information together into group boxes. We've replaced prompts with drop-downs, which is just using a simple SQL query to bring that up. We've gone out to the IFS to pull in the customer's image, just one of the many ways we can bring in images, documents, and things like that. We've also added a chart to show sales history and also order history in a table down here as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and proceed on. Let's take a look at the address screen. Option 2, general, which is the billing and shipping address screen. So what have we done here? Again, we've grouped like information together, but being that this is a browser-based application, now we can do things like bring in the customer's map. Now, their billing and shipping address happens to be the same, but it is broken up into 2 different tabs, and I would see those 2 different addresses if they were different. And to tie it all together again, let's go ahead and go back to product maintenance and work with products, where I can select this product. And again, this is the customized screen where we've added the product image, as well as a product spec sheet, which is, again, being sourced from the IFS, but it can be done in any number of ways. So these are just some of the many things that I can do, or that you can do, actually, to customize the screen. And I'll show you some more of these controls in a bit, but there really is very little effort to get to this point, and again, there's no impact on your underlying screen. Okay, so before we get into talking about how we customize these screens, let's talk about what are some of the other things we can do with Axes. A lot of our customers ask how we can integrate their existing green screens with other systems, so users don't have to go to different places to get the information they need. Now, using the example that Dave mentioned before, let's say that a user spends the majority of their day in Salesforce looking up information about customers, prospects, so on and so forth, but they also need to see information from their core ERP, which is a green screen. How are we going to do that? Well, we could give them a client access session and make them alt-tab around and learn how to use the green screen, or we could simply embed Axes into Salesforce. Let me go ahead and show you that. I'm already logged into Salesforce in this tab right here, and you see that I have a task assigned to me to follow up with Lansomart for the demo. I just did that to make it easier for me to find this. So I click on Lansomart, and it takes me into the Salesforce application. Again, this is just Salesforce doing what Salesforce does. It has a tab for activity details, which is providing me with all the Salesforce information. And we have a tab here called ERP Details. And what does that do? Well, when I click on it, it's going to take the Lansomart information, feed it to the green screens, to Axes, sign me into a session, and just like that now, that same screen that I've shown you, which is customized, is now being displayed within Salesforce. Now the users don't have to learn how to navigate the green screen if their core duty is to work within Salesforce. So just think about yourself, all the different applications your users might use today, and think about how you might be able to bring information from your core system to these applications without having to rewrite the functionality or even replicate data. Salesforce is just one of these examples, but hopefully you can see the potential. Okay, so we've talked about a few different examples. And how do we customize screens with Axes, and what does the Axes Screen Designer look like? Well, let's take a look together. As a developer, you work with Axes in a browser, so I'll go ahead and do that. Bring up a tab here, and bring up the Axes developer. The first thing I'm going to do for this webinar demo is I'll start by creating a new project. Now, I have a whole bunch of projects here because I work with different customers and POCs and things like that. But in reality, you would have a project for development, test, and production, which just really correlates to a directory on the IFS. So let's call this the webinar demo. And we will create this project, which will now allow me to go in and start working with the Axes developer tool. We'll go ahead and sign in to Axes as a developer. And I'll start by logging in. And here we have the IBM main menu. So this is a simple example. Let's start here and let's start thinking about some of the different things we can do with this screen. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a name so we have a point of reference. And again, this is only if I want to customize it. And I'm also going to name this field down here, the command line. I'm going to call it command line. So we name fields that we want to get and put values to because I'm going to add a button to take me into our demo application because I'm tired of typing that command. Let's go ahead and get into the extensions tab here. And you see right here in this list all the different things we can drag and drop and work with on a given screen. I'm not going to get into all of them, but just give it a quick peek and you can see all the different controls and all the different web functionality we can bring to our green screens. Let's start with something simple. I can take this, select one of the following, I can drag it around and move it however I want, or I can even just make it not visible by unchecking the property and just get it out of the way. So we can replace that now with a group box. And I'll take this group box and I'll start by sizing it a little bit and I'll add a caption of select an option. We can change the property to give it a more modern look. It's a little more flattened and streamlined, and just kind of throw it over the top of our options, and now we have a group box. Let's also take a push button, and this push button will have a caption that says run demo. And one of the nice things about all these controls is that they have direct links to the help text. So if you don't remember exactly what you want to do with this button or how it works or what some of the properties are, it's always available right at your fingertips. And it's really nice if you need to copy and paste some examples, because there are a bunch of examples of how to do things in here. I'm going to copy this little bit of syntax here and throw it into the on click. And what this is going to say is when I click the push buttons, I'm going to set the command line to say demo LTC. We're going to automate the enter key being sent, and I'll save that. When I click on this, just like that, hey, all right, we're now in our LTC application, which is where I've been spending the majority of our time. So let's kind of wander through, and I'll show you one more example. All right, you see here that this subfile, well, we've lost some of that styling. Well, that's because we have the option to turn that on or off, in addition to, where do you want your function keys to be, and do you want to have a background or colors and things like that. So let's go to our subfile and say, well, I want to recognize the headers and the tables of the subfile, and we're going to see now that it's stylized with rows and options just like I've shown you. So we go into their information, and let's start thinking about things we can do here. And I'm just going to name the screen. I'm also going to name this website field because I'm going to use it again in a bit. Let's go to our extensions tab, and I'm going to just select a couple of these to show you how quickly we can change some of the coloring. Make these red, underlined, and bold, and now we've added some styling to the screen. Okay, well, what about something like this date control? Okay, all I need to do to add a date to that is take the date control, drag it over the top of this date field, and now we have a date control and a calendar. And I can move this around because we have a lot of room down here at the bottom. And now we've moved that around to this bottom left corner again without affecting the underlying DDS or RPG programs. We can use things as anchor points, so I can line this up, and I can line this up here. Okay, so it makes aligning and arranging things very easy. We can now move this over here as well. Okay, what about discount codes, right? That was a drop-down in the example I was showing you. How do we do that? I take a drop-down control, drag and drop it over the top of the drop-down, and I can size it out to fit whatever the size I want it to be. Now we just need to fill in some blanks. Okay, I have a table that's predefined and set up for me, which is called discount codes. Now let's save this and see where we are and make sure we're on the right path so far. Okay, we have our calendar control, we have our drop-down with the values, we have our styling, and we have all this blank space over here. So really quickly, let's think about what we can do with that. I'll use one of these other controls, which is a frame. I'll take that. I'm just going to size it looking like this. And what we're going to do is we'll take the URL of whatever the customer is, and we'll put it over here. But again, think about the potential of bringing other systems and screens that you might have or other applications into and alongside your existing green screens. I'm just going to modify this really quick. Okay, I'm going to say that the value of this URL is equal to the website, and I want to get the value of that. Okay, so what that will do, when I hit save, I'm going to change one more property here. Right, we should see Lancer.com presented right down here in this frame. So, just a couple of simple, easy-to-do examples. You can see how rapidly we can start to bring other functionality into your screens. Like I said, there is a free trial, and there's a full suite of tutorials that will teach you how to do exactly what I've talked about. Okay, so that's really it for Axes, and for many of our customers, this is a great place to start. Right, you can solve a lot of challenges by instantly bringing your green screens to the web, and it's very low risk. But what about a more comprehensive modernization strategy for your enterprise, which allows you to leverage your existing 5250 assets like we have here, and build new programs with Lanza to start improved business flows. Now, this is where RAMP comes into play, and like Dave said, it's really the blend of Visual Lanza and Axes into a single modernization solution. So everything in this next step that I'm going to wander you through leverages what we have just talked about. So nothing in our approach is a throwaway. So you can start where you feel it is appropriate. So let's start by taking a look at a completed RAMP application. Then we'll come back and I will show you how we can build this. Okay, so I'll bring up my browser here, bring up another tab, and I will go to my RAMP application. So everything, again, that I'm going to show you here also runs across all the different browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, IE, Safari, doesn't matter. And I'll log in as myself using the same user ID and password that I've used a couple times now. Now, when I signed into the green screen, the first thing I saw was the IBM main menu. But in this world, we have more options. It's a bit more flexible. And what I'm showing right now is my own personal dashboard. And let me stretch that out so it fills the entire application workspace. All right, so this here is showing me my own dashboard, showing me who are the top customers, what's daily and monthly sales progress, what are the top selling products. But this is just an example, right? We talk to a lot of our customers about showing things like workflow or tasks that are assigned to the users, or news for the company, or things like dashboards. It's just a matter of assigning a program to a user and having it display when they log in. Let me go ahead and close that. What we have behind there is what we call the application workspace. Now, it works very similar to a Windows desktop, where Windows open and closed, allowing users to lay out their application how they see fit. Right? And like I said, it works like Windows, so it's also a user interface that users are used to working with. I think you'll see it as we're going along. The top left corner is where the application menu resides, and I click this button, and the menu slides off on the left with all the things that I'm authorized to work with. Now, as an FYI, the framework does come with its own model of security, or I can assign a user to a group, and I can check some boxes and say this user can see these different things, or they can't see these certain things, and that all comes out of the box. So everything that I've been showing you so far resides within customer service. And when I click on customer service, you see that I'm authorized to work with customers, products, and orders. When I click on customers, and a window appears on the left side that allows me to start searching for a customer. Now, this is the new Lanza program. And how we built this Lanza program was by running through a series of wizards and saying, here's how I want the users to search, and here's what I want them to see. And I'll show you that in a few minutes. Let's go ahead and search for customers with LA in their name, and we see a list of results on the right side. And this is pulling in real time from DB2, and it's really kind of meant to replace that subfile where we were somewhat limited by the amount of information that we could display. Or here it's fairly limitless. Now, a couple of things that you get out of the box with every list that's in the framework is, well, even though in this case there aren't proper columns going left to right, I can still sort by anything that I want to sort by. So name, address, city, state, whatever you want them to be able to sort by. Every list can be sent to Excel. So if I click that button there, it takes the details of that list. Again, this is without writing any code, and it pops it up into Excel with the columns that I choose to display. And finally, I've gone through and I've searched for customers with LA, and in this case, it's not a huge list of customers, but it could have been. So what we allow you to do is to refine that list down to closer meet what you're looking for. So let's pretend that the customer I'm looking for is in the 630 area code, and you see that list instantly refines as I type that. And when we select Lanza Mart, which we've used throughout the demo so far, we see a series of tabs appears on the right side in the window with everything that I can do that's related to that customer, whether it's an existing green screen, a new program, or a website, or something like that. Okay, so what are we looking at on the right side? Well, believe it or not, okay, that is this same screen. Okay, what we've done is we've signed the user in, we've navigated them to this screen, kind of similar to what we did with Salesforce. And we're displaying that screen. But since this is running within this Visual Lanza RAMP application, right, we can really start to extend the look and feel of our screens by putting a new Lanza program over the top of it, just mapping the fields from the green screen to our program. So to kind of show you what I'm talking about, I have this button here, which allows me to toggle showing the green screen or not. And this is only there because I'm working as a developer. But let me go ahead and say, show the hidden form. And you see, there is that Axis screen that's sitting there behind the scenes. And if I go back and toggle this on, you see that in real time, if I change this from Lanza Mark to Lanza Tom, and come back to our green screen, you're going to see that that changes in real time. So it's a direct mapping to your underlying screens. But you're not going to get anybody who's going to tell you that that's a green screen, right? No one will complain about this user interface. And again, since this is a new Lanza program, we can start to extend this out and add new functionality to this. So down here at the bottom, right, it's something that's very easy to do. I ran a query and I brought back all the orders for this customer, and I'm displaying them down here at the bottom. And if I click on an order, we see the lines and the details of the order are to the right of it. Okay, so this is one thing we can show related to a customer, but there were a couple other bits of information. For example, option 2 was their address, and all I need to do to view that screen now is click the address tab. And again, what's sitting behind the scenes here is that existing Axis screen. So what happened behind the scenes? Well, Ramp automatically hit F12, selected option 2, and is now displaying that screen for me, for the user. So these first two tabs are examples of using your existing assets, leveraging the goodness you have in those RPG or in your existing green screen programs and displaying them in a new system. But if you look to the right of that, there's other things I can do with this customer. If I click on this Notes tab, and this is actually something that comes straight out of the box with this Ramp framework, allows you to associate free-form notes with anything that's been selected. And I have this note right here, the webinar note, and you see that it actually allows you to copy and paste and bring along any formatting, including these handsome gentlemen right here come along in the note.
That's really nice.
But it's a nice, easy way for your users to be able to add their own notes. And one way that I see a lot of our customers using this is by taking the contents of an email and copying and pasting that in and saving that formatting off. So that can be shared amongst anybody who is using this system. If I click on this Documents tab, these, again, something that comes as a freebie out of the box with this is it allows you to associate both user and system-generated documents with whatever has been selected. Now, for those of you that might already have a document management system in place, we can easily leverage those using things like RESTful APIs, for example. But again, this is something that comes out of the box without any effort. Next to that, we have another example of a dashboard. This here is showing information about the customer. What are they ordering each month, allowing you to drill down into each day, or showing what product categories are they ordering. This guy's ordering a lot of power drills. Here we have their location in a map. Okay, so easy integration into third-party APIs. And here we have the customer's website. Now, the point of me showing you this here isn't necessarily just like when I showed you this in Axis, isn't to show you we can take Lanza.com and put that into a tab, but start thinking about all the different things that your users might access throughout the day and thinking about how you can bring it all together into a single composite application to minimize the amount of places they need to go to do their job. Okay, so this is working with a customer. But what about a product? Well, if I go to my menu, you see I can slide this out and start to work with products. And now, thinking about how I work with this in the green screen, if I wanted to work with customers and products, well, I probably would have to have two different sessions open and Alt tab between them because in the green screen, you can't work with two different things at the same time. But here, this application workspace allows the users to lay out their data however they want and work with as much information or as little as they want. One of the cool things about that is it takes some of the burden off of you and IT to necessarily dictate how the UI should be. The users can pick and choose how they want to work with their data. Let's go ahead and search for products. This is a more traditional list with columns going left to right. And what's cool about this is I can pick and choose as an end user what I want to see. So I just turned on two columns, the stock and the price, and you see those are now available here. Just like before, I can send this to Excel, or I can refine this down, and I can click a product, and now I see the product details. And what we've done in this case is we've just taken the customized axes screen and we've put it together into a tab. So here you have options. You have options. Do you want to use axes? Do you want to use a Lanza form and put that over the top of axes? Or do you want to potentially rewrite this with Lanza and replace the existing green screen? Right, so you have options, and it's up to you where you start. Now, everything for me so far has been arranged in tiles because in the top right corner, this checkbox is turned on for automatic tiling. And if I turn that off, you're going to see that I can start to move all these windows around, and I can lay out my workspace however I want. Okay, and let me just leave this like that, and you see that this is an ever-expansive workspace, so I can use as much of this as I need to as an end user. But let's think about the other areas of this application if I go back to my menu. Right? There's a bunch of other things I can do within here, one of those being resource applications. So when I click on that, you're going to see that my workspace will clear. And I click on people, which allows me to search for employees. Right? I'm now in a different application, so I have a different workspace. Let me search for employees. You see a list displayed, and what's cool about this list is I can actually check these boxes and start to hide and show more information. So you can really bring a whole lot of information up front to an end user without them potentially even having to drill down into the next slide. Let me select my favorite happy employee right here, and you see his details, his salary package, documents, and notes. But one of the reasons why I wanted to come here was not necessarily to show this functionality and to reinforce that it provides a consistent user interface across all the applications, but think about users of your system who are constantly multitasking, being pulled away to do different things. Right? I just left that customer service application open. What happens if I go back there? Well, I go to customer service, and you see that everything is displayed exactly how I had it laid out. And it remembers my format, what I was working with. So again, if you have users who are pulled away to do different things, right, they don't have to worry about losing their place. With that being said, the framework, if I wanted to have my workspace laid out like this and I wanted to close my application and come back tomorrow, this is exactly how it will be laid out, and that's all done out of the box with this RAMP framework application. One other thing to talk about, and I'll show you how quickly we can build this, is if you look around the left and the bottom, the right and the top, you're going to see that we have some panels that click on them and they slide from the right and from the bottom. So just different points of integration for you to add new functionality into it. And I got a little ahead of myself. I'm not going to show you this quite yet. I'm going to show you one other thing. So this is this application running on a full widescreen display. Okay, but what if I want to take this same application and run it on a phone, and I don't want to make any changes to my programs? Well, perfect. We have the solution for you. If I take out this parameter, let me just refresh my browser. And let me put myself into phone mode in Chrome so we can simulate what this would look like on a phone. So this is the exact same application, no changes that I have to make as a developer to make this possible, and I'll show you what the same application looks like. Log in as myself one more time. And just like before, when I log in, now I see that dashboard, but the tiles now flow from top to bottom as opposed to left to right. The same application menu slides out from the left, so it's a mobile optimized menu. And when I click on customer service, we see customers, products, and orders. And when I click on a customer, we see our same customer search panel. So what's the difference? Well, when I'm working with this application as in a widescreen display, right, we have multiple windows. Where in this version of the, not this version, when I'm running this on a phone, right, we only see one thing at a time, one panel of information at a time. That's all that really would ever fit on a phone. Let me go ahead and run through the same search. And what we see is from the right, we see the list slides in from the right. So that same exact program, same exact list is now displayed here. And when I click on LanzaMart, right, we're going to see, again, all those tabs slide open for me. So this is, again, that exact same green screen that's now made to be responsive and work within this framework application without you having to make any changes. So that's really where the power of this comes into play. A single code base And we can take your green screens and we can make them responsive and fit into a new application. And I have some other things that are still here, like their location or their dashboard. So again, it's the same application on a mobile device. All right, now I'm ready to show you how we build this. So I don't have a whole lot of time to go into the to the Visual Lanza tool, but that's what I'm showing you right now. This is Visual Lanza. As a Lanza developer, this is really where you spend the bulk of your time, whether you're building new applications, whether you're building framework applications, you're working with the database, client-side, server-side, deployment, it's all done from a single spot. I'm going to go ahead and launch the RAMP framework as a developer. And the first thing we do within this framework is we build a framework prototype. Now this is something that I really recommend that you do sitting next to the champion of a group of users to say, well, what do you want to have in your menu? When you click on an item, what tabs do you want to see? How do you want this application to work? All right, so get the users involved, reduce the amount of rework that could potentially happen, because when you get them involved, they get excited and they have input as to what they want to look like. So for the sake of time, I'm going to wander through this pretty quickly. I'm going to build a prototype, which really is just building out the menu and filling in some questions. So I'm going to restore what I previously had put in here, and you see that it's saying, in this application, I want to work with customers, orders, and products, and I'll hit next. This next question is asking me, well, what tabs or actions do you want to take within each of those? And again, I've restored this from a previous example, but it's saying for a customer, I can have details, documents, notes, location, orders, charts, and website, for example. We get next, and it says, well, hey, where do you want these three things to live? We want this to be in the webinar application. Okay? And we can change this color, something a little bit more easy on the eyes, because that appears as a stripe along the top. We get next, and we have our summary. So the summary is just telling us, that it's going to build these applications with these actions and these tabs, and it's going to make it available for us to test as an end user once that prototype comes back. And you see us starting to build on the left side in our menu with everything that we've just filled out. And when that comes back, I can execute this and run it live in my browser. Let's go ahead and hit the execute button as a VLF1 user. Execute. And I'll go ahead and log in again, because this comes out of the box. And being that this is a prototype, what we see first is just a mocked-up dashboard that you can replace and make your own. And we have our menu with the webinar application and customers, orders, and products. And when I click on a customer, we see our customer window. Now this is just a mock-up. It's all about vision creation and getting the users to buy in and understand what this application could look like. So let's go ahead and bring up a couple more of these tiles, products, and I'm just going to do one more since we built it out, orders. I have all these open, and I can tile these up nicely and have it all arranged for me. So the next step is optional. I don't have time to go into that today, but it would be to replace each of these little mock-up panels with actual mock-ups that could be screenshots of something that you want. The users have said, I want it to look like this, or it could be notes, or it could be a spec for a developer. Right? Again, it's all about vision creation without writing any code. But what we're going to do is we are going to focus on this customer application, and we'll replace this mocked-up filter and list with a real program. This is where we start getting into Visual Lanza. Over to Visual Lanza to create some programs. So just like I've showed you so far, it's just a matter of answering some questions. So when I click on Customers, the first tab we'll see is a tab called Common Activities, which wanders me through all the things that I commonly do when I'm working with an object. The first thing is saying, well, what table do you want to work with, or what file do you want to work with? And I can specify that here. The table contains information about customers, LTC customer master. Okay? And I'll pick a couple of columns, customer ID, name, address, city, state, zip, and I'll go down here. I'll pick one more for phone number, and we can just drag and drop those in. And now we have our list. I'll hit finish. Down here we specify, well, how do you want to search? And you see we have a whole different a whole bunch of different ways you can search. You want to use an index, a series of indexes. You want to build a SQL search, or for a table that might be a little bit smaller. Do you want to just display the results? For our purposes, I'll run through the SQL search, and I can just start to fill in some blanks and say that the customer ID has to be an exact match. The customer name should be a contains, and let's go down to the address. Address should be a contains. City should be a contains. I'm just filling in the blanks. State should be equals, and kind of finish it off. We'll go with phone and make that a little bit different. That should be a begins with. Let me hit finish. And what it's doing now is it's building the client-side search program. It's building the server-side search program, binding it all together, making it available for me to use as an end user. And when that comes back, while it may seem like this is taking a bit of time, think about all it's doing, right? It's building all these programs for us that we don't have to write any code for. Let me go ahead and refresh my browser. And I will log in once more as myself. And just like that now, we are going to see webinar application, this customer search with everything as we have it laid out. The next step would be this tab over here. You have an option. Do you want to write a new program, or do you want to leverage the existing programs we have in place? I'm looking at the clock, and I can get this in. We're going to make this happen. We're going to go right over here to Lanza, and I'm going to bring up the ramp tool. And I'm going to log in. And what this does is it choreographs and records the keystrokes. Okay, so all we need to do to bring in our existing screens is navigate the system. Okay, so I'll bring up a session. And I'm going to check this box right here, and you see this red light comes on. It says, hey, I'm recording your keystrokes. I'm going to track what's happening so I can build out a script. Okay, and now we just need to start to nominate what type of screens these are. This is a special screen. Okay, here we have the IBM menu. It's a junction, which means we don't really want to show it to the user, but we need to navigate through it. I'm going to go to our subfile screen, which again is a junction. And all I'm doing is just navigating the system as I would if I was an end user. Hit the detail screen, and I'll do one more, which is the address screen, which is another destination screen. And I'll back out of here. I'll finish the loop off and sign off, so Ramp knows how to kill the session. So we have a couple screens. Now all I need to do to tie those together is check this, select the screen over here and tie it to a tab. So customers, that's going to be the details. And the address is going to go to location. One more thing I need to do is replace a hard-coded value right here. So remember, like I said, it's recording what I'm typing. And I don't want it to always say Lanza. I want it to be soft-coded. So I'm going to go ahead and take that line and just copy and paste it right here. And there we go. If everything went well, everything went correct, I should be able to come right back here and refresh my browser and log in one final time as myself. And now, instead of seeing the prototype, I come back to our application. We've already seen the search. And we select our favorite customer, Lansomart. And there we have the Details tab comes up. And just like that, we have the out-of-the-box version of Axes. And we go to Location. We have that screen. And if I select a different customer, like Lap Insulators, LA Valley, we see all that information and their details being displayed. So with that being said, I'm about out of time, and I'm going to pass it back to Dave. Let me end here. Back to you, Dave.
All right. Thanks so much, Tom. That was an amazing amount of functionality that you covered in a small amount of time. Congratulations. Everything Tom created today was accomplished with a single vendor platform. He didn't have to code a single line of HTML, CSS, PHP. His application didn't require any open source technologies. There were no handlers. Nothing ran inside of the PACE environment. There were no windows and servers involved with anything here. All of this was possible without having to install any software on the end user's client. So in essence, Lanza offers a single, fully integrated modernization suite that can accommodate any and all of your application modernization needs. Now, for those who believe that I may be biased towards Lanza because they pay all my bills, then I recommend you head over to some of the crowdsourced review sites like G2 Crowd and Capterra to see what the developer community has to say about Lanza. In fact, there are about 86 different rapid application development vendors listed on G2 Crowd in their low-code development category, but only 7 of them made it into the leaders quadrant, of which Visual Lanza was one of them. So we're very proud of that. And again, of all those 86, Lanza is the only one that runs natively on IBM I. So if you're asking yourself, well, is Lanza's development environment going to work with my specific environment? Is it going to work against my data, my applications? Well, we are willing to prove it to you. We have this program called the Lanza Challenge, where we will go out of our way to prove to you why Lanza is the fastest and best way to build applications compared to other solutions. So no matter where you are in your modernization journey, whether you're still on the tactical side or if you're more on the strategic side, we'll prove it to you. So if you'd like to see how Axes can improve the look and feel of your 5250 applications, just go to axeslive.com and you can download a free trial. If you'd like to try Visual Lanza and give that a spin, well, just go to lanza.com and right on the home page there's a big free trial button. Click on that and get started that way. If you don't have time for trials, and a lot of us don't, right? We have deadlines and we have stuff to do, but you still need some more convincing, just simply send an email to challenge@lanza.com and we'll figure out another way to prove, Lanza's value to your organization, from maybe a more detailed product demonstration, a proof of concept, whatever it's going to take for your specific situation. So that's it for me, but before I pass control over to Janine, I just want to point out that I've put up our email addresses on the screen just in case you have any questions after the webinar. I've put up the URLs for both the free trials, Visual Lanza and Axes. The Lanza Challenge email is up there as well. So with that, I just want to thank everyone so much for your attendance today. Hopefully you found value spending an hour with us today. And Janine, I'll pass it back to you.